Tesla is well known as one of, if not the leader in the transition of electric vehicles. Tesla now has several vehicles in production: the Model S sedan, the Model X SUV, the Model 3, and the Model Y. They've also launched the Tesla Semi late 2022 and have plans for the release of the Cybertruck later this year. Now, today, many consider them as just a car company. But this is about to change. Elon Musk announced recently that at their upcoming Investors Day on March 1st, they will be sharing their plans for what he calls Master Plan Part 3. Here, Elon tweeted out that they will be showing the world how they can address a fully sustainable future for Earth, and that this is not just for investors, but for the people and life of Earth. This will be the turning point, I believe, of Tesla being seen as an energy company, not just a car company. Well, today we're joined by John Gibbs, also known as Dr. Know-It-All on YouTube. Welcome, John. Thank you for joining me again.
Thank you so much. Yeah, it's great. This is time number 2, so we'll have to see how many of these we can get. And it's great to be on the show with you. And I can't wait to talk about this because there's just so much to dig into with Investor Day coming up and Master Plan Part 3 coming up. So yeah, thanks.
Exciting. Thanks, John. So John has a very successful YouTube channel where he has been creating Tesla videos since 2019. He studied physics and specialized in astronomy, and he also went on and got a master's in AI. Now, he and I, as you just heard here, have been closely following the transformation of Tesla. In 2006, Elon first published Tesla's Master Plan Part 1. Now, the goal was to first release a low-volume car, that's the original Roadster, which can then fund a medium-volume car, the Model S, which can then finally allow the company to create an affordable high-volume car, the Model 3, which they released in 2017. Elon then published Master Plan Part 2 in 2016. Currently, only one milestone has been completed: the solar roof with the integrated Powerwall battery storage. The other 2 milestones that are still outstanding, they include the expansion of the electric vehicle product line to address all major segments. This will likely mean the need to expand to a compact car and a van, perhaps. Along with this, Tesla also already announced that they're in development of a dedicated Robotaxi. This new Gen 3 platform will be one of the major agenda items on the Investor Day presentation on March 1st. Now, the other 2 items, developing a self-driving car 10 times safer than humans and the ability to enable your car to make money for you, are likely not yet expected in the near term. John, help me get brighter. Okay, first question for you, John. Is it possible, do you think, that Tesla can release a Master Plan Part 3 when they haven't even completed these 2 milestones in Part 2?
Yeah, so actually I'm cheating right now because I'm actually looking at Master Plan Part 2, just to make sure I remember. But certainly, I mean, the solar, we could actually say that they haven't completed the solar roofs too, because the rollout has been much, much slower than what they had originally, expected. And also, I mean, honestly, Master Plan Part 2, I don't think any of the milestones have been completely completed, because also they said a vehicle product line to address all major segments. And clearly we haven't gotten things like the Cybertruck yet, right? We don't have a pickup truck, which is a major segment. We don't have the ultra compact car, potentially, something like that. And some people put vans in there. I think vans are a pretty limited use case, so I'd give them a pass on that. But anyway, I feel like at least we're not quite there with item number 2. And then self-driving capability that is 10x safer than humans via massive fleet learning. Certainly, obviously, they're working on that, but it is also certainly not done yet. So they're still working on that. And then, of course, they enable your car to make money for you when you aren't using it. And that one we can talk about more. Let's table that for just a little bit, but also clearly that hasn't happened yet.
so that's the one that's most furthest down the line. Yeah.
Right. But, well, I also am taking, I'll just throw this out there and we can continue to talk about it whenever you want to. But I personally do not believe that the Model Y that's sitting in my garage right now will ever be able to make me money. I do not believe that Hardware 3 is going to be capable of doing that. So, and we're looking at the transition to Hardware 4 right now within the next couple of weeks or months, starting with the Model S and X. And I highly doubt that they will ever allow Hardware 3 to be a robotaxi. I'm not saying that it won't be able to drive you. I'm completely confident that Hardware 3 will be able to drive me to work and back, without me having to take responsibility for the vehicle. I think that's going to happen. But turning it loose on the streets without any human being in the car at all,
Mhm.
no. I
Mhm.
think that's completely hardware for. So that's a pretty strong opinion on my part, but I'm fairly convinced that's correct. So I
Yeah.
think that Master Plan Part 2, you know, yeah, okay, there, it will be able to make you money, but you're going to have to buy a new car. You're not going to be able to do it with cars that were purchased in the last 5 years or so, something like that.
Okay, I agree with you. I actually agree with you.
Okay.
That point
Okay.
about Robotaxi being further away and its ability to make money is even further away than that. Okay,
Right.
agree
Right.
with you that, but I don't agree when you said that they haven't yet completed the line item of having all segments in the the for vehicles,
Right.
because that is what this presentation March 1st is going to be about, right? So if I go
Right.
through the list of what they said in their press release, what they're going to cover in Investor Day, they said most advanced production line. I want to ask you what you think that means.
Okay.
Long-term expansion plan, and then
Right.
he did say he's going to announce master plan part 3, fully sustainable plan for the earth. But then they're going to cover Gen 3 platform. And so the Gen 3
Right.
platform is supposed to be the compact car, the dedicated robotaxi, and maybe they called it a modular platform. So, yes, it's not yet out. Yes, Cybertruck is not out, but these plans are in place and they will be available. Let's go start talking about the bigger vision. And then the
Okay.
final point that they said they're going to talk about is capital allocation. So let's go ahead and address that. Let's go each one of those line items. So
Okay.
most
Okay.
advanced production line, what did you think that means? It's a throwaway line? Yeah.
No, 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 no.
Mhm.
Elon has been very, very kind of specific about the fact that he wants to have something that takes half the amount of machinery, half the amount of space, half the amount of labor and effort to create as the current Model 3. Now, you can you can tweak that a little bit because you can say the Model Y is already a step in that direction, because clearly the Model 3 is not as efficient to build as the Model Y because it took a lot of lessons from it and it's got the single piece casting for the fact back in the front. So, so you could say maybe it won't be 50% of the Model Y, but it still is going to have to be a substantial reduction in the amount of space and robots and labor and all of that stuff. So I think he's actually, that may be perhaps the most serious thing that he said. That's not a throwaway line at all, in my opinion. Now,
Mhm.
are they going to show us what they're doing? I don't know. That's part of their secret sauce. They're probably not going to. I don't. Have you been to Gigafactory Texas yet? Have you been able
I
to
was,
tour it?
but when I was
Yeah.
there in Giga Rodeo, it was pretty
Right.
empty.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. So I went there during Investor Day or Shareholder Day, whatever that was, August 4th, if I'm remembering correctly. Anyway, but it was up and running and they were building cars at that point, but you could only see the final assembly area. The whole area with the giga casting and all that stuff was all cut off. And I'm sure that was because they don't want to give away the state secrets that they have there.
Mhm.
So, I don't know that they will necessarily show us everything, but I think that they are very, very serious about creating an entirely new type of factory line. Um, Connecting the Dots did a really great episode. I don't know if you watched this, but when he talks
Mhm.
about the
I did.
Project Model Tau and the
Mhm.
Project Highland, and how
Yep.
Highland Park was the Model T production facility, and how much Elon Musk is a fan of history and of Ford. So, it makes really good sense that Project Highland, that the Model 3 that's coming out, will be kind of a forerunner of the reduced cost, reduced complexity type of building. How are they going to do that? I think if they build a small enough car, they could actually gigacast the entire underbody. So I know people think I'm absolutely crazy, including I think Sandy Monroe. We talked about this. He's
Mm.
like, no, 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 no. But my idea is that you've got the front and back already, and it can do that, right?
Mhm.
But then for the middle part, assuming you have a structural battery pack, you could just have very thin rails, kind of an underpinning that connects the front and back. And maybe it's not necessary to even cast it as one piece in that case because it's such a small amount. But if you think about it, again, the cost of quality that Sandy Monroe talks about all the time, if you cast this in one piece, every single one is identical. They all come out. You don't have any of that kind of funky stuff where you're trying to fit it all together and all that stuff. It just stamps out this whole thing. You plop it down, you stick a structural battery pack to give the rigidity to the center section, and all of a sudden you've got a car that the whole undercarriage of the car is basically one piece with a structural battery pack plopped in. And that's pretty impressive in my mind. Again, total
Yeah.
speculation, obviously don't know anything about this from the inside, but it seems pretty reasonable that that would be an option for them to use.
Yeah, just this morning they announced that Shanghai, Giga Shanghai, is slowing down production, and it's because they're going to be introducing a new production line for the modified Model 3.
Okay.
So there's several things to talk about, and I just want to make sure the audience is clear that there's these different concepts. The first one is a modified, revised Model 3,
Right.
and that is possibly termed a Project Highland. And
Right.
that's what you just referred to, is that this isn't just a new revision, a new refresh of the Model 3, which came out many years ago. This is a an improvement to the Model 3 so that it's reduction in cost,
Right.
and there's a new production line. So that might be what they show, right? How are they going to do that? And so
Right.
this is a shocking part, is that Model 3, they've already been reducing prices the last several months, and they
Right.
keep reducing the price of Model 3 while they now have started to raise the price of Model Y. So
Right.
if you can reduce the price of Model 3,
Right.
it could be considered the sub 30,000 car. We just heard
Right.
from Omar today that he showed that in California you can buy a Model 3 now for $25,000 if you're low
Right.
income, because of subsidies they're being
Right.
provided. Okay,
And,
so
and
that's the
I think Oregon as well. So you can already, depending on where you live in the US, I want to point out one very, very important fact. And I haven't checked the Tesla website in the last few days,
mm,
but at least as of like maybe a week ago, the last time I checked, you could not order the standard, the long range. Yeah, you could only order the one motor version of the Model 3 or the performance version. So the
mhm,
middle one, which is the dual motor kind of long range Model 3, has been off the books for a while. Where is that? It seems like that is a very good potential for Project Highland, that they've been, working at creating this, and they wanted to shut the line down. So they just didn't even have a line. So they had no way to produce these vehicles. And then I have been super busy today, so I hadn't had a chance to see that. But the Shanghai thing is interesting, because that means if they've got it working in Fremont, and I know a bunch of people from China came over to the US to help
yes. Mhm.
revamp things, then they can take that knowledge back to Shanghai. They can shut it down and do the same thing over there as well. So that's actually very positive news in my mind to hear that they're going to be backing off production on the Model 3 for a while, because that probably means Project Highland is
Yeah.
going to go international. So there we
Yeah.
go.
So most advanced production line is a very big deal, because it means that they can produce not only, well, first the Model 3, probably at reduction price and faster and more, and then Model Y. Okay. So that is the Model 3. The next line item was the Gen 3 platform. Tell me more about what
Right.
you think this means. What are the kind of models? What did you think when you heard the word modular?
Yeah. So I don't know if we could count the Cybertruck as the beginning of Gen 3. That's a kind of an iffy, like, maybe it's Gen 2.5. It almost seems like it's its own beastie, but it could be a pathfinder in a way for Gen 3. But I think that number one is that Elon has said many times before that that there would be a sort of a Model 2, but it's not going to be called Model 2, but whatever it's called,
Mhm.
would actually have regional variations to it. So if there is indeed kind of a modular design, and maybe the skateboard, the underneath part of it is the same, but the upper exterior, like the look of
Mhm.
it, it's changed for the United States, which likes a little bit bigger, more spacious cars, and then Europe, which likes their smaller hatchback cars, and then China, which likes their own style of cars. So, you could see at least three sort of regional variations being created out of the same car, if it's got the right modularity. And one of the one of the problems, actually, I was, oh gosh, I can't remember what video I was watching. But anyway, they were talking about how, it was a truck guy. Anyway, they were talking about how if Ford makes six versions of the F-150,
Mhm.
and all
Mhm.
of them have slightly different variations, then that causes all sorts of problems for the guy on the line, right? Maybe the grill looks different each time. So he has to pick the right grill out. He has to get the
That was
correct
my
conventions.
video.
That was your video. I'm so sorry. Jeez. I was watching.
I
Yeah.
interviewed Corey Steuben
Yeah.
from
Gosh, sorry. I knew it was Corey, and I was trying to remember, because I was like, it wasn't on Monroe Live, but it was on your. I'm sorry.
it was me.
I'm so bad about this. Well, hey, look, it's a plug for your channel, because it was so good that I remembered it. I was out walking the dog, so I was like listening to it instead of watching it. So I think
Uh-huh.
that's why. Anyway, anyway, so my bad. But I mean, the idea that you have all of these different fascias, all these different connectors, the complexity is very high. And so you might say, like, okay, well, that's going to be the same problem if you have 3 different versions of the Model 2, whatever it's called. But that won't be the case because you've got Giga Berlin can manufacture the European version, Austin can manufacture the US version or Fremont, and then Shanghai can do the Far East version. So you don't really increase complexity because each of the factories just makes one version. It's not making multiple versions. So yeah, so there you go. So anyway, I think that's reasonable. The other part about modularity is I don't know. I don't know if they're thinking about making. At least I've speculated on the fact that they might make early versions of the Model 2 with steering wheel and accelerator and brake, and then later ones without. But I've actually lately changed my mind, and
No.
oh yeah, I'm predicting on March 1st they are going to show us the Robotaxi. So
Yeah.
that is going to be the Model 2, whatever this kind of compact car is, and it won't have a steering wheel, it won't have an accelerator, it won't have brakes, and they will
Okay, wait.
say,
Yeah, you confused me a
"Yeah,
bit.
yeah, okay,
So we clearly know that they have said that there's going to be a dedicated Robotaxi. They
yes,
announced
yes,
that in several
right, right, right,
speaker announcements. They've also got it in a slide that I'll show here. Dedicated Robotaxi. Then
right,
there is the concept of the compact car.
right."
So those would be two separate things.
I don't think so. That's why I've changed my mind about
What?
that. Yeah.
Explain.
So,
Explain.
okay, so do you know the Osborne effect? Other I can give a super
Yes,
quick okay.
please.
Just for people who don't know,
Mhm.
the Osborne, I can't remember the guy's first name, but he was a very, very bright guy in the early 1980s who made a computer, which, back at the days of the early personal computer, he made it, and that was the Osborne 1. And then he started advertising and said, "Hey, we've got this even better Osborne 2 that's coming out somewhere around 6 to 9 months from now.
Mhm.
This thing is going to be way better. It's going to be awesome." Well, what happened is that everybody was like, "I'll just wait for the Osborne 2." So all of his sales that were going along like this just dropped off a cliff, and the company went out of business
Mhm.
before they could even market the Osborne 2. They couldn't bring it to
Mhm.
market because they had no money. So that ever since has been caught in the, you don't really want to be the guy associated with something that disastrous, but unfortunately that has his name on it. So the problem is, let's say that Tesla on March 1st, just a couple of weeks from now, actually 2 weeks exactly, says they pull off the curtain or like the cover,
Mhm.
and here's this whatever it is car, and they're like, "Look, it's the new Model 2. It's going to cost $23,900 when it comes out, and it's going to go into early production late 2024 and mass production in 2025." What is going to happen to the sales of particularly the Model 3, but also potentially the Model Y, is it could fall off a cliff because people might go like, "Oh, well, damn, I could save $15,000 and this car is just about as good. Why would I buy a Model 3 right now? I'll just keep driving the car I have." So that would be them Osborning themselves. So my prediction, and this just came about like yesterday as I was doing a video, I was like, wait a second. If they introduce a Robotaxi specific vehicle,
Mhm.
they don't talk
Mhm.
anything about one that a customer can buy, only one that either Tesla or big fleets like Uber or Hertz can buy.
Mhm. Mhm.
And they're like, here's the car. It's coming out in late 2024, mass production 2025. It is, it will be synced up with regulatory approval of getting full self-driving for robotaxis on the road. You can't buy one, but look how cool this technology is. Same exact thing. The only difference is you can't buy one now. So it's like cool. That's awesome. I love this technology, and people will get excited about it. But and it, I've had people complain, and they said, well, some people will hold off because they'll just be like, I'll just ride a robo taxi instead. And yes, it could
Mhm.
have a minor sales drag, but it's not going to have anything like the kind of sales drag that announcing a product that's $15,000 cheaper than your cheapest product, or just you name the figure, but something significant where people are like, well, I don't really want to buy the more expensive one anymore. So that was like kind of my like aha, like light bulb. So, okay. So I'm giving this like 70% odds that I'm probably wrong because I'm
Yeah.
always wrong. But if I'm right, I definitely want like a gold star.
Sure, I'll
So
give you that gold star, but
there we go.
it's unlikely you'll be right only because Elon announced and he said there's going to be a dedicated robotaxi. They've
Right.
talked about it quite in at length. Dedicated robotaxi,
Right.
which means that no steering wheel, no pedals, all that. But they also said that they're going to create a Gen 3 platform, which is half the cost, half the price, half the factory space.
Right.
So, you know what I mean? Like, okay, what was that? That's what is that?
Well, it
When
could just be a revamped Model 3. I mean, it could be
true.
the Project Highland Model 3 that they could be reducing it by that much that maybe I don't what is a Model 3 entry level price right now? I can't recall.
Yeah.
It's around $40,000, something along those lines. So with the
Mhm.
$7,500 US tax credits in the low 30s. So let's say they could lop another $5,000 off the price of
That's all
that
they
thing.
need, really.
It brings it into the
Oh,
20s and suddenly you're like, "Damn, that's a cheap car." It's an
it is.
inexpensive car. High quality,
I
but inexpensive.
Yeah. I've been saying the same thing as you, in that I always thought that the Gen 3 platform, I actually don't think that it's going to be built on the Model 3 and Model Y platform. I
Right.
think it's going to be built on a Cybertruck platform.
I do
But
too. I do too.
what? You're the first person who
I've been
agreed with
saying
me.
this. I've been saying this since 2020,
Okay.
2020. Summer of 2020, I designed a new Tesla with an exoskeleton with a stainless steel body and
You
said, "This is
designed
what
it,
it's gonna." Yeah, I've got videos online. You can go back and look. It's called Designing
but
Model
you're
2, I
always
think.
wrong. I'm just joking.
Well,
I'll
I
check
know
it
I
out.
could. So I know I unfortunately may be giving you the curse of doom from me. And Sandy Monroe is absolutely adamant that I am incorrect about it. He's like, nope, this
Right.
is
That's
not
what
the way
I've
they're
been
going
hearing.
to
The
do
reason I
it.
think it's a Cybertruck platform is it's ridiculous for them to create a Cybertruck and then that's it. It's a one-off. It doesn't make sense to me. And Cybertruck is so it's so first principle and the
Right.
way it was designed.
I'm gonna send you just so that like I know we're talking through this thing in in real time here. I'm gonna send you a picture and a link to the video, the original
Please.
video from
I'll add
way
it. Yeah.
way back, which has the design. Now I do have the rear passengers facing back, and think about how much more structurally sound the body of that machine would be in that case. You don't because windows are always. I've always thought like this is ridiculous that they're building. I predict just to jump completely overboard. Speaking of stainless steel things, to Starship, I don't think they're going to build windows into Starship
No.
because we've got beautiful high resolution screens now. You could just
Yeah.
put one because every time you
Right.
punch a hole, I don't think they should be doing it in airplanes anymore. They should be putting in little screens where the
That's what I'm
windows
saying
are.
too.
It's
Um,
stupid because all you're doing is reducing the structural integrity of this
yeah.
body. So there's no sense in putting windows in anymore.
Okay.
Um,
So just tying back to the comment about
yes,
master plan part 2.
right,
So what I think is going to happen is they're going to come in and talk about the Robotaxi. They're going to at
right.
least talk about it, and then they will then use that to explain the plan for Robotaxi and the whole,
Right.
the ability. Why aren't we able to do Robotaxi yet? And so that will kind of say, okay, we think that we've got a plan for that. Let's talk about sustainable, fully. He used the word fully sustainable
Right.
energy for Earth,
Right.
and he's talking about scale.
Just
And
little.
then he clarified then he clarified that it's for not just for investors because it's called Investor Day. This is for all of people in Earth. What
Right.
did you what did you interpret all that to mean?
Oh gosh. I, clearly he is thinking about the sort of overarching. It's weird. When I was a kid and over time, I thought of civilization as many things, but I've gotten to the point where I think of civilization as kind of like an animal where it's all about energy processing. And so
Mhm.
just as to be the most healthy human being you can be, the best input food that you get, the best energy, leads to better output. That society is basically energy constrained. That's the problem. So I see what he's doing. He's like, number one, have to get off fossil fuels because regardless of the climate change issue and whether you believe that or not, fossil fuels by definition are limited. It's going to take millions of years to make more oil. So we're eventually going to run out. There's no if I guess there could be deposits, 10 miles down or something that you can't get to. But
Mhm.
basically, we're going to run out of fossil fuels. So we have to get off fossil fuels. We have to get onto renewable energy sources. Obviously, solar and wind are the two obvious, the two most likely ones. Fusion maybe in 20 or 30 years, who knows?
Mhm.
But I think so. I mean, it's quite clear that what he's talking about is somehow scaling up the capability of humans to make energy and then to store energy and then to utilize energy. And that's pretty much what Tesla does. They
Mhm.
solar panels, batteries, and transportation right now. And Optimus, of course, would be able to use that. The Tesla bot could eventually use that to just do any kind of labor as opposed to just transportation. So Tesla's already set up to answer all those questions. The question is scale. They've talked the most about batteries, right? They've talked about,
Mhm.
is it uh oh gosh, how many terawatt hours is it that they need to do like per
One.
year or something?
Oh, okay.
I don't think it's one. I think it's more like three or something. It's
Three.
either
It was
three.
three.
Yeah,
Yeah.
3,000 gigawatt hours per
Yeah.
year of battery
Mhm.
capability, which is
Mhm.
way beyond the
Yeah.
global supply right now.
Yeah.
So, so that's the obvious piece. The part that I'm interested in, honestly, the most, and then the cars, and it's like, okay, we got cars, we understand what those are. My question is solar, because currently the Chinese manufacturers are completely
Mhm.
dominating solar right now. They're
Mhm.
they're making this very, very inexpensive. So I wonder if Tesla doesn't have some new technology, some way of deploying it, something up their sleeves that's going to change things. Because just imagine for wherever you live, even if it's a relatively cloudy area, if you could install, say, 10 kilowatts of solar generation capability on your roof for, let's say, something ridiculous like $1,000, then a lot of people would do that. Like basically anybody who can afford to own a home could afford an extra $1,000 to put solar panels on their roof. So that seems like a pretty low hanging fruit if they can get the cost down enough that they could say like, look, you can install this thing. It's not going to cost much. And then especially in a lot of countries, you get rebates and tax refunds and all that kind of stuff. So that seems like a pretty a pretty obvious case to use it for, and then for businesses as well, because businesses, even more than regular people, they often have very flat roofs. A warehouse or a strip mall or anything like that, they generally have flat roofs, which just plop a bunch of solar panels up there, and you're generating the power for your strip mall, and you don't have to go to the grid as much. So it could be highly disruptive to the grid, is something that's really interesting if you really start to diffuse the power generation. That could
Yeah.
be
My
very
only
threatening.
edit to what you just said there is I don't think that they're going to do residential solar business as much. It's there's
Okay.
signs now that they're pulling back from residential. There's anecdotally a bunch of solar project managers from Tesla being laid off. People who signed up for solar being delayed, and I think that there are with the release of Tesla Semi, they're going to bundle that with mega packs and solar panels for those businesses and, like you said,
Okay.
corporations.
Yeah.
But then the one thing that I've been guessing at is that in the invite he said it's going to be a bright future. The future is bright. He said the
Right.
future is bright.
He was
And so
referencing your channel. There you
roughing
go.
the channel. A lot of people sent me that. But it's like, I think that they're going to announce 100 square mile solar farm,
Wow.
because
Okay.
that is what he said is enough to power the US. And that's my thing, and I think that there's a reason why they've been probably slow, like reducing the solar panels availability to the residential. They probably been
Interesting.
stockpiling it for this reason. That's my
Okay.
guess. It's a huge guess, but I mean, in order to show how you can get fully sustainable solution for Earth, he needs to convince the governments that, look what I just did here. I've got this group here, and that's already able to power
Right.
something like that, or at least a plan for that, right?
Right. It could be something along the lines of, I hope I'm remembering the name right, but the Hornsdale power plant in Australia, when they had
Yeah,
the all the power outages and stuff, and Tesla was like,
yeah.
"We can come in, we can fix this in like 60 days or some insane thing. We could
Yes, that's
put
right.
this
He made a
in."
bet.
And they
Mhm.
were like, yeah, they were like, "Sure, go for it. Why not?" And they did it. And then that
Yeah.
was what leapfrogged the Tesla Megapack, power station. So I don't know that I would buy like 100 square miles in one place because the distribution would be
Right.
ridiculous, but maybe 100
Mhm.
square miles total.
Mhm, mhm.
Like one in
Yes.
Nevada, one
Mhm,
in like Colorado or Kansas, so like a few of them distributed, but 100 square miles total. That would be pretty cool.
mhm. What's your thinking about resources, minerals? So, they just launched uh, Tesla Electric in Texas,
Right.
which allows Texan homeowners to actually act like a virtual power plant. There
Right.
was news recently that in California, those Tesla owners who have power packs were able to actually make $600 from
Right.
the utility paying them for their energy. And then Tesla, refining of the lithium, that mine was also is launched as well. So what's your thinking of what their announcements will be with regards to lithium and minerals and mining and
I So I know, well, there's so many different balls in the air for this kind of thing. So thinking locally in terms of the United States, obviously the US government has put in place, like, make the batteries in the US and you get 35 bucks a kilowatt hour. So, there's no reason
Mhm.
why they won't be trying to get as much production, mining, refining, all of that stuff in North America as possible. That obviously doesn't affect the global market, but well, I mean, it does just a little bit. But anyway, like so I think lithium is going to be a big thing. That seems like it's the sticking point because Tesla and a lot of
Mhm.
other companies are moving as much as possible to LFP batteries.
Mhm.
Now, I don't know that their 4680 architecture at this point. I think it's all nickel metal, nickel manganese, cobalt. I think it's NMC. So, so I don't know exactly when they're going to be able to make that switch with their own internal batteries, but it does make a lot of sense for Tesla, especially for stationary storage, to go completely LFP because number
Mhm.
one, much, much cheaper. Number two, you can charge it to 100% over and over again without
Mhm.
degradation. And number three, it is more robust to charge discharge cycles. And so the one big negative, of course, with a car is that you can't put as much energy into the same space. So that's a downside. But for stationary storage, who cares if it takes an extra like zero point 0.1 acres or something, right? So
Right.
it's inconsequential when you're putting this stuff up. So that makes really good sense that they will use LFP batteries for that and will switch to a lot of LFP as opposed to the older technologies, the more high energy density technologies. So in fact, they already have in China, and a lot of the cars that are sold in Europe are LFP. So
Mhm.
I think that that's one big way that they can get around a lot of these issues because it is very difficult to get a hold of some of these other materials. Now, that means that lithium then becomes the major sticking point, which means that Tesla need, and many, many other companies need to be mining and refining as
Yeah.
much as possible. But there are new battery technologies coming out now that reduce the amount of lithium that you need as well. So that's another
Mhm.
future possibility.
And then do you think that they're going to talk about megapacks and the Lathrop revealed that video just a couple weeks ago,
Right.
and then this is the time to come out. Why have they been
Right.
a little, some people are feeling like they've been kind of quiet. They've not been saying things about the contracts that they've been signing and the production level. When they released that video, that was one of the first they finally started saying, "Hey, we're doing
Right.
megapacks."
Right.
Yeah.
And how many per year that they're producing too. So you can start to do the math and figure out how many per hour. I think is it
Yeah.
one every 28 minutes or something along those lines right now.
Right. Right.
So you can start to really map this all out and you can say, well, how many factories at this run rate would you have to be able to make 3 terawatt hours per year? And it turns out to be a lot. So, but anyway, you you can start to like work all those details out and you can start to figure out like how much they'll need. I don't know. You're talking about them being quiet about that. I don't know. Tesla doesn't often talk about
Yeah.
kind of unannounced stuff. So I
Yeah.
have a feeling that we're going to get. I have a feeling that this March 1st event is going to be pretty crammed full of stuff. So,
Yeah.
because we're going to have to deal with the new cars. We're going to have to deal with the Cybertruck. We're going to have to deal with the state of the art right now. We're going to have to deal with
Right.
solar, whatever happens
Yeah.
with that. And then we have to deal with batteries and what there's gigantic scale batteries are. And certainly that has to be a major part of Master Plan Part 3, without a doubt.
Yeah. Okay. What do you think when you saw capital allocation is going to be one of the topics discussed? Now, this is Investor Day, so some people think, well, that makes sense, right? Is this a
Right.
stock buyback? But others are saying, well, capital allocation doesn't just mean stock buyback. Is this them saying, we're going to be putting this much money and planning to put this much money in mega packs, factories versus gigafactories versus
Right.
you know, solar
Well,
batteries and
I so as a Tesla stock investor or just a stockholder, it would be kind of nice if they did a buyback because that would mean the value of my stock
yes.
would go up just
Yeah.
automatically. But
Yep.
as a human, like a citizen of the earth, I really hope that they do some sort of crazy moonshot thing. I mean, I love
Yeah.
the idea of them just building 100 square miles of solar panels. Like just going
Yeah.
like, yeah, we've got so many billions of dollars. We're just going to take $8 billion and we're just going to do
Yeah.
that. So, I
Yeah.
mean, that could be what literally they could say, this is our capital allocation. We're just doing this for the good of humanity. Knowing Tesla, they will make money off of it eventually too,
Yes.
because they'll
They
become
will.
the next gigantic power source. But
Yeah.
you think about that actually, if Tesla can somehow make that happen, then they have the battery storage, and then they have the storage at home, and then they have the utilization of that storage through their vehicles and everything. And eventually, like I said, with Optimus, the Tesla bot's going to come. They've been very quiet about that too. But if you start to look at all of this, they really can become this sort of like dominant company on Earth. Like they could kind of
And
control
it's
everything.
free energy. The
Yeah,
sun is free.
right, right. Yeah, you you
So
you build out the
yeah,
panels, but then after that, aside from
it's free
maintenance,
forever.
it's very
I
yeah.
I've been saying that I think that capital allocation is referring to what we just talked about now, not stock buyback per se. And the reason is because I think, and you tell me if you think the same thing, that this is Tesla's coming out party. March 1st, they're going to come out and say, we are an energy company. Here's
Right,
all the things we're doing for energy. Here's what we forecast megapack factories are going to deliver for us. Here's, contracts we're signing. Here's where we're going to spend money on. And we're no longer going to be just talking about cars. I think the car thing,
right,
they're going to say, here's our plans to complete all segments. Here's their designs, and they're going to be developed in the next couple of years. But really, what we are is an energy company. Do you think that this is the case, or is it still very much, yeah, what you know?
wow. They do have to walk a little bit of a careful line because, of course, they still have to sell cars, or else their
Yeah,
company doesn't make any money. So
yeah,
I could see a little bit of a need to kind of soft pedal that, but Elon Musk is also a crazy man. So why not?
hmm,
I mean, Elon keeps saying that they're an AI and energy
right,
company. And
yeah,
and we haven't even talked about AI yet because again, I don't know that they're going to mention that too much on Investor Day because there's just so
no,
much else to talk about. But
yeah,
but that also plays a role because things like AI auto bidder and stuff like that are
hmm,
enable the batteries that people have in their houses and especially the megapack, the large structures that are out there to make money because they're constantly predicting when energy is going to cost a lot and cost a little so that they can charge and discharge at those points. And so that is an enabling technology, but it kind of is what Tesla is becoming. I think they always have been, at least
hmm,
since the days when they introduced the solar panels. When they bought Solar
yeah,
City, they moved from being an auto manufacturer to an energy company. And I think people kind of forget about that because they're like, oh, it's a car, but it's a battery operated car, which means that it is energy. You're putting energy in it, you're taking energy out of it, you're using it for transportation. Eventually, if we get vehicle to grid, you
yeah,
could charge your house on it. I don't think the batteries that they have out right now are probably capable of that many charge discharge cycles without having a lot of damage to them. But,
right,
in the next couple of generations, maybe with the Cybertruck coming out first and the 4680s and new chemistry, that the V2G will be there. And so you'll be able to power your house if you need to, right? If there's ever a reason, or you can just do it because you want to. So if you have solar panels, or even if you just pulling line energy off, you charge up the battery and then you hold on to that. And if you're not driving the car that day and the energy costs spike, you just put it back into the grid and make money on it. So your truck, just sitting there in the driveway could be earning you money. So that's pretty cool.
yeah. That's exactly where I was going to go with this conversation. Is that I think
Okay.
that we're almost set up with a change in business model. So the
Right.
business model right now is Tesla sells you a car, you buy the car, now you own this
Right.
car, and you just spent an allocation of money that you bought it
Right.
for, and it depreciates over time. Well, what if you can make money? And they've already
Right.
shown that Powerwall users are making money And Tesla Electric is going to let your houses to become virtual power plants, and then if you do attach your car to it, then that's an additional battery. Uh, you know, more batteries available for storage, not just power walls. But what
Right.
if at what point, right? When they so that's I think the missing part is the solar. So if they can get
Yeah.
solar panels to generate the energy, then they can share that with you if you have their batteries and mega packs in your home or power packs in your home in the car, and then it's free.
Yeah.
It's free
Yeah.
everywhere.
Right.
So like they're already going to show that all superchargers are going to have solar panels,
Right. Right.
and so that's going to be free cost to Tesla, but they're going to
Right.
charge the users. But eventually, they can keep lowering and lowering that price
Right. Right.
as they get ready.
Yeah. Yeah. And everybody's complaining about the fact that across the US and worldwide and Europe specifically, that they're starting to open up their chargers to third parties, doesn't realize that eventually what could happen is that could subsidize. So you buy a Tesla and they either give you for free or a very low cost, 5 cents a kilowatt hour or 10 cents, whatever, something really, really low that you get to charge it for, but everybody else is paying to
Yeah,
subsidize you so that you're getting the lower cost charging and they're all paying
yeah,
for it. Right. So,
yeah.
it's like, sure.
Yeah, I think what
They're in
they're
a weird situation where they're going to become monopolistic over so many elements of
yeah,
energy production and charging and storage and all of that, that they could eventually end up in
yeah,
trouble for all of this.
sure. Well, there's no competition. So okay, so
Yeah.
let's address that. So first of all, the plan I understand is that if you are a non-Tesla, so just today, the government there was an announcement by the White House saying that they've now struck a deal with Tesla that they're going to
Right.
open up, I think 2,700 superchargers that they're going to let non Teslas to be able to charge using the superchargers. And then I think the plan was that if you are a non-Tesla, you as a driver would pay a monthly fee if you want to get the
Right.
same price as the Tesla owners and when you supercharge. Or if you don't, then you're going to charge, whenever you do it, but it's going to be more
Right.
expensive than an owner.
Right.
And then,
Right.
so the government base, and then all the other cars companies have realized that Tesla's so far ahead in their supercharger plans that they needed to
Right.
do this. But like you just mentioned, it doesn't matter because this all actually still works in Tesla's favor. You need to have their app. You're going to be going to Tesla
Right.
supercharger
Right.
stations, and you're gonna it's just not going to work out for these other guys. But they have no choice.
Yeah, it's kind of crazy, right? Because they're basically just like those the environmental credits that they've had to pay Tesla for over
Mhm.
the years when they were making too many ICE cars, that that now basically what they're going to be doing is directing traffic to a bunch of things. Just imagine if you went to the Ford gas station and it had Ford badging everywhere, and there's like, get the Mach E, or sorry, get the Mustang gas, whatever. It's like you're just going to this branded thing where you're like, oh,
Yeah.
this is cool, this works great. And then you can like look at the Teslas next to you. You have the app, and every time you open the app, it's like right next to, I think this is already the case, right next to the charging is like buy a Tesla, go shopping or
Yes, it
something.
is.
And you could be like, while you're sitting there charging, you could literally buy a Tesla while you're just sitting there charging up. So
And
it's
again, it's
wow.
free to Tesla. This is
Yeah,
a solar
exactly.
panel powered electricity
Right.
in the supercharger, so it doesn't cost
Right.
them. Eventually, it won't cost them anything,
Right.
and
Right.
people are paying you money. It's like as if they own Esso and Chevron and Shell,
Right. Right.
and they're making the money, but without the cost of all the oil and gas and
Yeah, that's true. It's like, so somebody shows up with a tanker of gas and is like, here. Yeah, it's
free.
crazy.
Um, so we talked about a number of things here: the capital allocation to solar farms, sustainable solution, Gen 3 platform, the expansion plan, long-term expansion plan, and he kept talking about this is about scalability. How big
Right.
does your mind go with what we're going to hear on March 1st?
Gosh.
This is Elon. When Elon says massive
Right.
scale, this is Elon saying it.
I know. I know. That's what's
Wh-
scary. He's the guy who's building a starship to go to Mars right now. It's like he doesn't think little.
yeah.
So I I I think that I don't know that they're going to talk about Optimus, but I feel like that is an
No.
absolutely critical part of Master Plan Part 3. Whether or
Okay.
not it's explicitly written in there, but labor is the ultimate,
Good
like
point.
that's the ultimate expansion limit. How much labor can you eke out of a certain amount of energy? Again, if you just reduce this all to kind of a basic equation, again, human beings, we have to take in food and water. So we have calories. Then we do work out of those calories. And that's the labor market in some sense, right? A very, very kind of low level way of looking at that. And then, of course, we have to go buy food and stuff. And so, therefore, people have to keep, so it's this big circular thing. But if you can increase the capacity or reduce the inefficiencies in the human labor market by using something like a Tesla bot that can work and is more energy efficient than a human being, or can work longer hours, so it can be more hours efficient. Because a lot of what us humans are doing is not really working. We're sitting around eating, watching TV,
Yeah.
sleeping, a lot of stuff where we're burning energy without actually producing anything valuable. So if the Tesla bot can eventually become even as little as 2 times as efficient as a human in terms of energy usage per amount of labor done, then the sky's the limit. Just how many of these can you make? You can keep growing the labor
Yeah.
market. And by the way, you need more energy when you're going to do that, right? So if you're going to have 10 times
Mhm.
as much labor being done on the planet, you need more energy, even if it's more efficient. So all of this stuff kind of is this like virtuous cycle where it's all just feeding on itself.
Okay. Well, I have a bet with other people
Let's see if I can
that,
get in on this bet.
yeah. Okay.
Okay.
My bet is that on March 1st, Investors Day, they will not say the word Tesla bot, Optimus, or insurance at all. Okay.
Okay.
And it won't
Okay.
even be asked in a Q&A. You willing to do a $10 Starbucks bet with me? You just
Yes.
spent 5 minutes talking about the Tesla bot,
I know. No,
and
no, 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 no. I know.
this is a
Okay.
Master
Okay.
Plan Part
Okay.
3 energy show.
Okay. So I will take you up on that bet with the caveat that they may say something that's a little bit more hidden, but referring to the Tesla bot, like the expansion of labor or something like
No,
that. That's
gotta
obviously,
it's gotta be the words. That's the bot op.
oh,
It won't be talked about. That's gonna be reserved for
okay.
AI day. Okay.
Okay.
So, the last
Fine, fine,
5, 10
fine,
minutes
fine.
here. Last 5 to 10 minutes here. Like, do you think that this is a big deal? March 1st. Is this bigger than other events? And we're all get excited about the next event,
Right.
and this is the
Right.
big one. Or is it gonna be just
So,
another, announcement? We're all excited, but nothing really is gonna change to the
right.
stock, to the business, the way the narrative is. Or do you think this is different?
So when I went to AI Day 2 last fall,
Right?
I was convinced that was one of the biggest things that Tesla had done, like, ever. But
Tesla bot.
yeah, Tesla bot. Yeah, I mean, it was like the AI stuff, the full
Yeah,
self-driving, Tesla bot, all those announcements, and I stand by that as probably one of their at least top 2 or
agreed.
3 most important days that they've
Agreed.
done. This one feels to me like it's like a step change bigger than that. Because
Agreed.
never, Elon Musk did Master Plan Part 1, just put it on the web. Nobody even knew who Tesla was. He did Master Plan Part 2 in 2016. Is that right?
16. Mhm.
Yeah. And again, people knew who Tesla was. They made the Model X and stuff, Model S and everything. But really wasn't that big a deal. Again, it was just
Mhm.
put on a website and stuff. He's more than likely going to read at least the highlights of this at a day like, Investor Day in front of a bunch of people live and millions of people remotely. I think that that's huge. He's been working on this for what, years? Publicly,
Mhm.
he's at least 18 months ago, he started talking about how he was working on Master Plan Part 3. So I think this is just a huge day. I, I will be very disappointed if it just turns out to be another day. It's like, oh, here's the refreshed Model 3, and we're going to do a stock buyback. I would be pretty bummed. I would
Yeah.
feel like we
So,
got overhyped.
yeah, yeah, I think it's a moment in history. Just like you said, AI Day 2 was critical because even if they came out with a bot that didn't walk and it barely
Right.
walked, it didn't matter to me. What mattered was this is the
Right.
moment when Tesla announced that they're going to do Tesla bots. And 10 years, 15 years from now, your children, my children, their children will be coming up and going, and I'll go, hey, look at this day. this is the same thing when I said when the iPhone was presented by 2007 by Steve
Right.
Jobs. This was a
Right.
moment in history that changed the world. Now, I think March 1st is going to be a moment in history that changes the world again. This is kind of the first time that somebody's going to say, I have a plan and we are going to solve fully sustainable energy for Earth. The question though for you is when he was talking about Master Plan Part 3, he was intending to announce that 6 months ago. And then he got
Right.
interrupted by the Twitter
Yeah.
fiasco, the Twitter
Yeah.
deal. Now he's a CEO. Now he has to be a CEO of Twitter for another year. And then now they announced that we're going to do the Master Plan Part 3 on March 1st. Was this an afterthought? Was this something that, just coincided that, oh, yeah, maybe I'll just, present it now? Or do you think that, yeah, this is bigger than we all think and it's designed?
Mm. Well, okay. So I'm trying to remember how they've organized these things because they had shareholder day last year, obviously. They've had shareholder days before. Like how many, like how regularly are the investor days scheduled? Are they
Last
every
one
year
was
on March 1st?
2000. Nope. Investor
Yeah,
Day was
that's
the last one in 2018. And so one
okay.
of the questions that Alexandra was asking was, why did they do an investor day? So there's a couple reasons. One is that shareholder day was used to be in October, and then they
Right.
kept bumping it up, and now it's coming up soon. And this is a very
Right.
big shareholder day because there's a lot of items up for vote
Right.
that could change the board members,
Right.
and
Yes.
and so and then with the stock falling so much that it did in 2022, I think it was important for them to do an investor day 2 months ahead because they want to make sure that the voters will vote in their Tesla's favor of what they want to
Right.
happen. And so
Right.
that's why they're doing investor day.
Yeah. So, but you're saying exactly what I'm thinking, which is that this is not a regular thing. So I don't think it was like, oh, it's March 1st again. We got to do another investor day. It's like, no, they planned this. This
True.
didn't have to happen. They could have easily just had skipped it. Um,
Hmm.
so I think it's I think it's very intentional, and I think it's going to be a big deal. Yeah, like I said, if they just announce a new Model 3 and a stock buyback, it's going to be like, well,
Hmm.
I'll be really sad because I think
Oh,
it's going to
really?
be a heck of a
Okay.
lot bigger than that. No, no, I mean I'm just saying that that's not big enough. I think this needs to
Hmm.
be one of those like here's Master Plan Part 3,
Yeah.
here's how we're going to change the world. That's what I'm expecting, and
Yeah.
maybe that's
The reason I
crazy.
think it's going to be a moment in history, why I think it is bigger than we think, is because normally when he does Master Plan Part 1 or 2, like you
Right?
said, it was just a blog post. He just
Yeah,
posted because he needed to have a full write up to explain to everybody. This is the first time he's going to present it. And so
yeah,
I think that they themselves thought that this was important. And that's why I've been saying I really want this to be the moment that Tesla's no longer going to be seen as a car company. This is an
right,
energy company.
right,
And yet I know people might have to wait until energy revenues is more than maybe 10% of the revenues before they'll stop thinking about that. But
right,
if the vision and mission is so much bigger and they can just say, hey, yeah, cars was step one,
right,
and now that we've got that in our hands, we're changing the company. You know how Tesla Motors became Tesla?
right. Exactly.
And that was like, it was their first shot at trying to change the narrative.
Right,
Yeah.
right. And Tesla ends up being a great name for all this stuff because,
Yeah.
Tesla, the person, was all about electricity and
Right.
energy generation and things like that. So
Full
it
circle.
turns out to be just a prescient name that they
Yeah.
came up with. So yeah,
It's sad that Mr. Tesla, the
I
original
know,
scientist,
I
that
know,
he,
I know.
he died penniless and all of his inventions
Right,
went nowhere. But I think it's kind of
right.
what is the word? What's the word? Yeah, karma, I guess.
Maybe oh, yeah, maybe that'll be their giant, like, announcement is that that you remember that big giant kind of
Mm.
mushroom-shaped
Yes,
Tesla generator thingy that he had?
yes.
Maybe
He
that's
had the
what they've
rodeo.
been developing. They're gonna be like, "Yeah,
Maybe
we're putting one in Austin. So, we're gonna power the country from
wireless
the."
energy
Yeah,
transmission, and it's
exactly.
powered by the sun, so it's free anywhere in the world. No, I don't think so. But yes, that
That's a
would be
little
cool.
far out.
Awesome.
Anyway.
Okay. Well, thank you so much, John. It's always fun. You really are a know-it-all.
Oh,
Just kidding you. I love your funny name, but thank you, John. So everyone follow John on YouTube. He's known as Dr. Know-It-All. He's amazing videos. As you can see, very, very intelligent analysis. He's on Twitter at Dr. Know-It-All
Dr. Know-It-All.
16, because I guess
You
there's
got it.
15 other Dr.
I
Know-It-Alls.
I don't know. I signed up and it tacked the 16 onto me, so who
You
knows?
didn't need to do that, buddy.
Just saying.
But okay, so if you thought that you got a little bit brighter today, please, hit that little like button. And I don't really ask for that very much, but it's great for this to move us forward. And if you have any thoughts, if you think this day is going to be important, let's talk in the comments. I'm going to ask John to go into my comments and actually reply to people. Do that
Cool.
for once,
Yeah,
John. Spend some
I'll do
time on
that.
my channel.
I'll spend some time on your channel. Hey, I spent some time on your channel the other day. I just forgot where I got the information. So there we go.
Okay. Thank you, John. Appreciate your
Okay.
time. See you later.
Bye-bye.